Hey everyone, this is Helena and I'm here with Nicole Elisa today. Nicole is a transformational love coach who helps women own their worthiness and irresistibility so they can attract the kind of man and relationship they want in their lives. So welcome, Nicole. Thank you so much for talking with me again today.
Hi, Helena. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's always fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yes, if you haven't seen our other two videos yet, they've just gotten such a huge response and so many requests to bring Nicole back on. So I'm so excited. And today, especially, I'm excited for this topic. We're going to be talking about what to do if you're attracting emotionally unavailable men, or men who just give you crumbs, or if you're in a relationship, or if you have your eye on one particular man and he seems to be really hot and cold or emotionally unavailable or anything like that. I know this is such a common situation. I've certainly been there myself. Most women can relate to this, right, Nicole?
Yes, 100%. I told you, I'm really passionate about this topic. It's time that we end it. I remember I was telling you that the reason why I wanted, to talk about this was because people would tell me well, if you're attracting emotionally unavailable men, then how are you unavailable to yourself? And I was like, what does that even mean? It's such a big concept. So I really wanted to have this conversation with you because I always love connecting with you. We know that we can actually just, make everything super clear for all the women that are watching so that they don't have to go through that again. So it's a super empowering interview, basically.
I totally agree. Yeah, and I can come at it from my own, psychological background, and it is a really big concept. And Nicole and I were getting all excited and talking a million miles a minute before this interview because we just have so much to say on this, so much synergy around this. And what I love about Nicole is she gives you really clear, actionable steps to take some of these big concepts and give you some things you can actually do to start turning things around. And that's where we connect really well because we both really try and do that with our work. So Nicole, let's say a client comes to you and her man is just giving her crumbs. He's emotionally unavailable. Maybe he's afraid to commit or move the relationship forward. What's the first thing you would have her do?
Well, the first thing that I would say about that, and this might sound really interesting for people, but I always say that like attracts like. So whether this person is in a relationship or this, they're not in a relationship, but you're noticing that you're attracting men that are just giving you crumbs. That doesn't mean that you are giving crumbs yourself. What that means is that the energy underneath it all is sometimes similar. What gets a person to just give crumbs in many ways is what has a person just accept crumbs. So what I'm seeing is that both energies actually come from a place of lack, right? Whether a person, and I really believe that this has to do with how, you're used to maybe processing your feelings and your emotions, because a person that gives crumbs in many ways doesn't feel ready to give love, doesn't feel ready, even worthy of that love. And that person will just give what they believe that they're capable of giving. So that person is not sometimes 100% fully ready to give love, right? Because they're not really sourcing it from within. And they need to come to terms to that so that they can actually shift it. They need to do their internal work so that they can actually give of themselves. So to make it more clear, I remember when I was a kid, I would notice that my dad would always give to my friends a lot of gifts and all these different things. But when it came to me, he would always complain, and that's how I saw it, right? And I didn't understand it. But it wasn't until I actually worked with a coach who told me, Nicole, your dad gave when he was happy, when he was actually feeling good about himself. It had nothing to do with you. The moments where he had resistance, where he was just quote unquote giving you crumbs, was the moments where he was not feeling good about himself, right? He wasn't really feeling full of love. He wasn't really feeling that. So instead of actually taking it personal, you see that that person was actually feeling lacking in love. So normally when a man tells you, hey, I'm not ready to be in a relationship right now, listen to that. Because a man needs to feel full of love so that he can actually give, so that he can be generous in his love. The same I seen happens with a woman where she she might not be feeling 100% good about herself. Meaning, I have actually seen this like with women that are like successful in corporate, like entrepreneurs, and they're constantly like, traveling around the world. Like I've seen it like all across the board, like stay-at-home moms, like entrepreneurs. I see it, but then there's a feeling and an emotion inside of them where they feel inadequate, like they don't feel good enough, and they try to like hide it. They try to cover it. They use their lifestyle. They entertain themselves buying different things, or they might just immerse themselves in reading novels and doing all these different things, but they're hiding a feeling and an emotion. And because we live in a culture that is so full of, like we distract ourselves so easily with the phone, with the social media, with all these different things, that what we are doing in many ways is actually hiding from our feelings, from our emotions, but the energy is still there. Just because you're pushing it to the side doesn't mean that it's not there. And actually, because you're putting it to the side, you're actually making it stronger. And that energy attracts itself to people who are feeling lost, don't feel ready for love, like, or who don't feel worthy of it, or stuff that keeps you just feeling a little bit off about love, but deep down you want it. So it's all about first looking at that, acknowledging what you're doing, so that when you want to distract yourself, this is what I would say to the client, is like, when you're about to distract yourself, when you're about to, like you feel scared of actually feeling an emotion, give yourself the time, feel it. Like if an emotion is telling you that you're not good enough, it's not true. It's not true. The mind will have you think, oh, but this person rejected me. Oh, but this other person rejected me. None of it is true. Nothing on the outside can determine whether you're good or not. It's just who you are on your inside. So you
That is
gotta
so
first look
true.
at that. Yeah.
Absolutely. You just said so many powerful things. I can't wait to jump into all of them. Yeah, something I see so often in clients, and I certainly used to do this myself, is when a man is only giving them crumbs, or he's unable to connect with them or commit, they take that to mean something about their own value. Even on a really deep level, they're like, well, if I was valuable enough, if he saw my value, if only I was X, Y, and Z, pretty enough, thinner, smart enough, then he would connect more with me. Then he wouldn't pull away. Then he would give me more than crumbs or commit to me, right? They take a man's inability to connect or commit to mean something about their own value. Do you see that as well?
Yes, 100%. And that's why you cannot take other people's behavior as an indicator of your worth. So that would be like the number one thing. That should be your number one boundary. You cannot let anything on the outside make you feel like you're more worthy or less worthy than another person, right? You just got to own it. You got to own your essence. You got to love it, because it's kind of like, I see it like a palm tree, or not a palm tree, because palm trees are actually quite strong, but just like a leaf, right? If you're not clear about your worth, if you don't really fully own it, then whatever somebody says can make that leaf go this way or this other way. And you're always like, not like, you got to be grounded in that and know it. And when you own it, that energy, it's going to attract people who are like more ready of love. And I've seen this too, like when a woman might try to change something in a mind so that he feels worthy of love, to then give love to her, but it's a personal thing. It's really a personal thing where somebody has got to really choose it, or else they resent you, they avoid it. And then, we hear this about women who think that like if they change a man and then they're worthy, right? But
Yeah.
it's not up to you to change a man, right?
Yeah.
Like they have their own mind, right? And they need to go through it like by themselves.
Yeah, and not only that, just to like jump off of what you were saying, which is so true. I completely 100% agree with that. And I just see it across the board in so many women. It's unbelievable how common this situation is. So for everyone watching, if this is something you're going through, just know you're not alone. Most of us have been there, and hopefully this will help you start to turn it around. So right in line with what you were saying, what I see is a woman's self-esteem and self-worth and even like mood is like dependent on what a man is doing or not doing. He contacts her, he comes towards her, she feels great, she feels good about herself. He pulls away a little bit, or he starts only giving her crumbs, and she feels like something, it means something about herself. It erodes her self-esteem, especially over time, if she were to stay in a situation like that, right? So when we're talking about like attracts like, and if he's only giving you crumbs, on some level, that's what you're accepting or what you're willing to accept. And something I always say is that what we accept in a relationship is a measure of what we think we deserve deep down. Even if on the surface, like you said, the woman could be really smart and beautiful and successful and a total catch, if deep down you don't feel like you deserve more than crumbs, you're going to attract someone who resonates with that on a certain level, right, Nicole?
Yes, I love everything you just said, because I feel like the deep work here is actually really learning how to center yourself, so that, how do I say this? Like, you got to learn how to center yourself, because let's say you watch this video and you're like, yeah, they're both right. Like, I'm empowered right now. Like, I'm not going to let it, but then the next moment, the next relationship or the next person happens and you find yourself like it happening again. What you need to really do is actually really build up owning your worth, like claiming new things into your life, creating before you actually see this. I think it's important to really say this. Once you shift something inside of yourself, then everything else will start to shift on the outside. So right now, if you're seeing unavailable men, if you're seeing men that are giving you crumbs, that's not the reality. It's just what you're attracting is what the mind is making you see. But the more you build up that self-worth, maybe you watch more videos like this, you work with a coach, you read books, but you actually take it in creative practice where you do this for yourself. This is important, right? Because, I would believe that women want to feel really confident and not feel like their emotions and their energies depend on what other people do. Because notice how fickle that is, right? You don't know how centered the other person is, right? And you're putting all of your power in the hands of another human being that doesn't even know how to handle their own life in the moment, right? So it's important that you really build that up so that your energy isn't like leaking. It's like really working on centering yourself. And I love what you said. One of the first things to do, and I think would be like if we go look at the numbers that we've been creating, is first having the awareness, and then ask yourself, why am I, accepting crumbs? What am I believing about myself? Why am I tolerating this in my life?
Yeah.
Right? And then stopping it out of love for yourself. You got to love yourself way more than you love a man. You got to do this. Because if the person is not capable of loving themselves, you got to really fully put yourself first. That is the only way that you can actually give generous love and attract somebody as well that loves themselves, right? Because if you're sacrificing yourself for another person, then you're not doing them any good.
I totally agree. Like making yourself smaller and your own needs and desires smaller, shrinking yourself down to like fit into a man's capacity to love you. I love what you said too about tolerating. Tolerating is something you never want to do ever. Nobody should be doing this. I say either accept it or reject it, because men are pretty straightforward. They show you who they are and what they're capable of and what their priorities are. And if that's enough for you, that's great. If not, working to make some shifts within yourself or in the dynamic can be really helpful. So you're either accepting it, this is who he is, this is what he's able to provide, or rejecting the whole thing and moving on and making yourself available to someone who's really capable and wanting to give you the kind of relationship you want. But you should never just wait around and tolerate anything. It's the fastest way to decrease your perceived value in a man's eyes. That's the fastest way to kill the attraction and connection in the relationship, truly. So many women are kind of tolerating, crumb handing out behavior. They're just taking those crumbs because they think they're going to lose a man if they don't. They feel a man's already halfway out the door. He's only giving her crumbs, or he's unavailable in some way. He's not committing. And they think, well, if I stop tolerating this, I'm going to lose him. That will just send him out the door completely, right? And you actually want that to happen. If he's really not capable of anything more than this, you want to kind of draw a boundary and stand up for yourself and what you want. So I found when you do that, the wrong men for you just fade away, and the right men just step right in and start to like pursue you for what you actually want, right?
Yeah, I love that. And also, I believe that it has to do with decreasing your perceived value, like your own perceived value when you're tolerating, right? Like a lot of women, it's important for us to really realize, hey, this is not just about him. Like, how is this making me feel, like subconsciously? Is it making me feel good? I really do believe that it's so important for us to have this level of awareness. And I believe that the reason why this happens is because we live in a culture where we are taught to numb our feelings. And women, we're very sensitive, we're very emotional, we have all these feelings. So if we don't know how to control, like not control them, but to know them, like to really know them so that we know like what is truth, what is actually just an emotion that I've had stored and now it's just creating its own entity, like it's important for us to know. And the thing about this, and I really do believe that what creates this and what makes us go so unconscious about this is because chances are, that this has to do with your past when you were a kid, feelings that you felt like you weren't able to control. Maybe you felt like you weren't good enough as a kid. And what happens is that you store them, but then they become bigger and bigger and bigger. And you're leading your life, but you didn't address it. You stored it because you wanted just to feel good, to continue. But it's important to look at it. Like if you know you're amazing, if you know you have a very kind heart, right? It's like you gotta end that narrative because it's so big, you attract it. Like law of attraction says, like whatever you resist persists.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid of feeling your emotions. Don't be afraid of. A lot of women, what I see is that they're so scared of feeling it because they feel like it's true, like they weren't able to control it. Then their emotional intelligence book, like their emotional intelligence books, there's coaching, there's many different ways. But what I would love to share with women today is for them to feel empowered. To really feel empowered, like you got to empower yourself in your emotions, what you allow to be true, because that builds self-trust. It really does build self-trust when you allow yourself to just own, like, hey, this is who I am, right? I am good to my core, right? No matter what, no matter the mess ups, all of those different things, I am good to my core, right? And I deserve that back. I mean, chances are the other person is as well. It's just that we cannot just live being scared of our feelings. If we are carrying guilt, if we're carrying all these different energies, it's important to forgive ourselves. So our energy can be really clean so that we can have a new, a blank state, and create something new in our lives. It's just really important. I've actually seen that when we have this energy of attracting emotionally available men or accepting crumbs, it's because they're feelings that we haven't really fully processed. We haven't fully forgiving them, maybe just release them and create a new identity for ourselves, accept something new and something better. We have that power. We really do.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. We could just talk all day just on that. I was right as you said, what you resist persists. I was just about to jump in there and say that because it's so true. If you're sitting on feelings and stuffing them down and not wanting to face them, they're just getting bigger and bigger. The more pushing against something you do, the bigger it gets, the more it persists, right? And I love what you said, if you were to think about just the most, if you were the most empowered, self-assured woman who trusted herself and trusted her boundaries and knew her value deep down intrinsically, think about it. You wouldn't tolerate bad treatment. You wouldn't just accept crumbs from men. You wouldn't settle, right? You wouldn't settle in any area of your life. And you'd instinctively feel turned off if a man wasn't treating you well and doing what he's supposed to be doing in the relationship, right? You'd instinctively feel turned off to that. What happens a lot of times if you don't feel empowered, if your self-esteem isn't that good, a man doesn't treat you well and it stirs something up in us and causes us to want to lean forward and get what we want out of this man. It's like we're looking to him to solve something internally within us on a deep level. And I've certainly done this. We all have to some degree, right? And
Yeah.
I love what you said about accepting your emotions. And do you have any tools on that? I mean, I know we could just talk forever about this, but really empowering yourself, stepping up for yourself in your own life so that a man either naturally sees your value and starts acting right and doing what he's supposed to be doing, or, a new man, an even better man steps up where this would never be an issue.
Right. Yeah. So the first thing that I would recommend is to learn how to become the observer versus the analyzer of a situation. So the observer, you notice a feeling bubbling up, something that would normally make you react in the form of just, staying with the person, going into panic, wanting to stay with him, or actually that makes you want to shut down emotionally and distract yourself. Before it happens, you want to practice being the observer. You've got to start noticing what your body is telling you. Like, is it giving you feedback? Like there's going to be certain things, triggers, and you're going to notice that are going to happen before you shut down, before you react and panic, before anything makes you like just want to stay in that situation. Start getting, start connecting with your body. Start noticing like what are those triggers, what are those moments, and ask yourself, what are you feeling? And when you notice the name and the emotion, you can start writing it down. You want to become aware of it. Now, the observer is not the person or the energy that believes the emotion, right? Whether that is maybe you're feeling jealousy, maybe you're feeling fear that he's going to leave you. You're not going to feel it, right? Because you got to always remember the truth. There's an abundance of men. There's an abundance of men that are ready for you. There's an abundance of men that are great for you, right? If you're the analyzer, you immediately believe like the idea, the emotion, and you start to spiral downward, right, with it, and you just take the action, right? But if you just become the observer, you can be like, oh, I see what this is. This is an old energy that I've had stored for years. And if I'm not like conscious about it enough right now, it's going to take over me, and I'm just going to do it. And that's how you feel like you cannot trust yourself. But the more you practice becoming the observer of a thought and an energy and an emotion, you can be like, wait, that's not necessarily true. Let me center myself. You can breathe. You can choose to do something different. And that would be the first thing that I would say. That's going to stop you from reacting and going unconscious, which is like the first principle of what actually would have you attract that sort of man, right? Because you let those feelings be so strong. After that, you can start affirming new things, about yourself, and taking action based on those things. Even though it might seem scary or crazy, it might even tell you like, leave this guy, right? And be like, what are you talking about? Like there might not be more men like that, or that might not necessarily be the conversation you're having. Maybe you're having a conversation of, it's so hard for me to find a man that I feel a connection with, right? And you're like, but maybe he's going to, but just trusting what your intuition tells you in that moment and taking action from there, no matter how scary it looks like, you got to really just be there for yourself. One thing that and maybe we can talk about this in another video, I don't know, but it's like, it actually just like hit me in the face. It's what actually leads you to be, attracted to that sort of person. Like a lot of times that person, when you have that high intensity and feeling of emotion, is because it's like I said, the feelings and the energy that you had stored in the bag, they're just coming and they're clashing together, and it feels so passionate and so amazing, but you know that it's not going to work. But it just feels like that because we got to really be responsible in processing our feelings and emotions.
Oh my gosh, that is so true. I love the idea of the observer. And when you were saying that, to me, it felt like you were saying responding to your intuition from that empowered place versus reacting, this knee-jerk reaction that's probably coming from past experiences, right? Responding, by the way, is a very feminine energy quality. And I also love this, oh my gosh, we should totally do another video on for me, the chemistry was just off the charts with emotionally unavailable men before I figured out what was going on, because that's where we felt safe. That's where both of us felt safe. There was no risk for real emotional intimacy or a real committed relationship. And I could just talk forever about how our subconscious mind actually creates this spark of attraction with the kind of men that fit right into our old patterns, even if those patterns aren't really working for us, right? Like you said, it's those emotions that we're stuffing. We tend to attract that out there in the world, so we can kind of love that part of ourselves and hate that part of ourselves out there in someone else, because we don't want to face it in ourselves. So if we don't feel good about ourselves, if we're highly critical of ourselves, we attract men who make us feel like we're not quite good enough, right? There's just so much that we could say here. And for anyone watching, please type in your experiences with this in the comment section and any other requests for future videos, because we were just talking before we started the recording that it's just such an important topic. I really feel like it's my mission to help women turn this around, because it doesn't have to be this way. Nicole, something you mentioned before is something along the lines of when we have certain experiences, especially if it's like a repeated pattern, we get into this belief that like, this is all there is. Maybe there's nothing else better out there for me. And that can keep us stuck on unavailable men as well, right?
Yeah, it's so key because we don't realize how powerful we are. I had a coach once told me, you're really powerful, and then you're swimming in victim energy.
Mm.
That's
Wow.
what she told me. She's like, you
Wow.
manifest, you do everything, but then you go into this energy while not realizing that what you're doing is that you're using your power against you and you're believing what you see. But if all of you have seen that you've been able to create something because you've set your mind to it or you've set your heart to it, right, then there's nothing really outside of you, right? So you gotta really choose, hey, this is what I'm gonna create in my reality. And just because what you're seeing on the outside, in many ways, is not just because you're believing it, but because you're just open, right? You're open to believe other people's ideas. So if you like don't agree with it, if it's not gonna serve you, then you gotta like actually choose what you're gonna believe in. You know, are you gonna believe in abundance? Are you gonna believe in impossibility? Are you gonna believe that you're gonna meet the love of your life? Are you gonna believe that you're gonna like meet somebody that's gonna like really love you and it's gonna be fully, totally like generous and loving towards you? Like, what are you gonna choose? Because if we don't know what we choose, then we can feel misguided. We can feel like, oh, I don't know what is it that I'm gonna get. It's like I said, it's like you're just this leaf and you're letting like the breeze take you wherever it takes you, right? And that's when we start to see whatever, you know, on the outside. But we've got to actually choose and really build that power inside of us to know that what we are choosing to believe on is what we have the capacity to create. Right?
Amazing. Yeah, so true. So true. I love that. I was like, when you said you have so much power, you're a powerful creator, and you're swimming in victim energy. I mean, who could not relate to that, right? And this can happen quickly. You can shift this actually pretty quickly. It doesn't have to take years and years and years and going back decades and undoing these deep-seated beliefs. It's like, you can do this quickly, as quickly as you're willing to kind of look at some of these things and shift them within yourself. So Nicole, that brings me to your free gift. I would love to hear, you know, anything you have to say about that.
Yeah, I have a free gift that really helps women like feel really empowered. It's an energy clearing session, you know, something that's going to make you feel more empowered. It's going to make you feel more worthy. It's going to help you start facing those feelings and those emotions in a really safe space. Right? Like I hear from a lot of women who just repeat the audio several times, and it's actually like it helps them a lot, right? So it's just, you know, Nicole Elisa, that's NicoleElisa.com/free gift, right? But yeah, I love it because it's gonna help you like feel more empowered, feel like you're gonna trust yourself. I heard from some women that they say like they feel super empowered the first day, and the next day they're like, oh, like I said, it's practice. It's not going to take you forever. It's going to be very easy. Just, you got to really choose to create this for yourself, like in your life. From that choice, you will have all the support that you need. It's just a matter that you choose to be empowered.
It's so true. It's so much easier than what it sounds like. If this sounds a little daunting, like once you start attracting new evidence as your beliefs and feelings about yourself start shifting, it's actually really fun and it becomes easy, and you're going to look back and go, I look back and I go, oh my gosh, I can't believe the crumbs I would accept from, you know, it's unbelievable the amazing transformation you can make in a short period of time once you really start doing this work. So thank you so much, Nicole. I'll post the link to your free gift and your website, any way people can contact you right below this video in the description. I also have a free training that I hosted on how to stop attracting the wrong kind of man so you can attract the right one. If this is a pattern for you, it doesn't have to be this way. It really doesn't. So I'll just throw that in there too. Everything's just in the description right below this video. This was so awesome, Nicole. As always, thank you so much. And for everyone watching, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like and a comment. Let us know what other videos you'd like to see from us and what questions you have. We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences with this. We love hearing from you. And Nicole, thank you so much again.
Yeah, thank you so much. If anything, you just got to choose to be empowered. Like, it's not just about the steps that you need to take. While they're important, they will give you the clarity that you need. You first need to be like, enough enough. And from that space, you will be guided.